LadyLucidity ASMR. Hello there, my lovelies, and welcome to another baking video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I made some delicious cloud cupcakes, as you've probably seen in the thumbnail image. So, of course, I will put a list of the ingredients and such and quantities in the description box, but here I'm just showing you the basic ingredients, but I will be doing a step-by-step guide today. Okay, so obviously before we start you are going to need some icing sugar and some extra butter for your frosting, unless you are buying pre-made cupcake icing. Okay, so first, as with every cupcake recipe, you're going to want to cream your butter and your sugar together, and basically just means you're going to mix your butter and your sugar together until you have a nice consistency and all of your sugar is mixed in to your butter. Okay, so I'm just going to pop all that in. Now you could use a stand or electric mixer for this, but for the purposes of this video I'm going to use a good old-fashioned wooden spoon. Okay, so when you're mixing you're going to want to see a change in the consistency. It's going to be a bit more smooth and creamier, and your butter should start to turn from yellowish to a more pale whiter colour. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I incorporate all the sugar into this, and you should see the difference within a few minutes. Okay, so all my sugar is mixed in, and I know it looks a bit like scrambled egg, but I can assure you this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so it's all mixed in together. So that's just perfect. So next we're going to want to add our yogurt. Now I'm using skyr, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's just a natural yogurt with no extra flavorings in it, but obviously it's up to you. You could try this recipe with honey Greek yogurt or maybe a fruit based yogurt. That could be quite tasty. Just depends on what flavours you're putting into your cakes, but I made these for a baby shower, so I just wanted to keep it nice and simple with some vanilla. So this recipe has yogurt in the mixture, and that makes your cupcakes extra creamy and moist. It actually keeps them nicer for longer. So I made these cakes about, I think, 2 days before the baby shower, and they were still just as moist and delicious. So if you're looking to make cupcakes for a party or an event and you don't have time to make them on the day, I would definitely recommend this recipe to keep them just a little bit moist, a little bit longer. Okay, let's just pop that out the way. Okay, and then just want to fold our mixture in. Okay, kind of looks like I'm mixing in whipped cream. most of my wet mixture in, or wet ingredients I should say, and then put our dry ingredients in. Okay, so it doesn't need too much of a mixing. I think that's pretty well mixed in there. Again, you could use a stand mixer for this, but I wanted to just fold the mixture in gently rather than whisking it in. Okay. So, next we are going to need our eggs, our flour and our baking powder. Okay. And don't forget your flavourings. This is when you pop them in. So again, if you've got a fruit or a flavoured yoghurt, you won't need to do this stage, but I'm just going to add a good swig of vanilla in there. Perfect. And a little tip from me, if you are using flavourings or gel food colouring, my little tip is to keep them in your fridge, because if they're refrigerated they actually last longer and are less likely to crystallise or turn funny. Okay, so this recipe does require 4 eggs. If you have particularly large eggs, because these are medium sized, I would go with just 3. And we're going to mix them in very gradually. So we're going to do 2, give it a good mix round, and then we'll do another 2. Okay, just to make sure they're all fully incorporated and it doesn't overload the mixture by having too much egg in at once. Okay, so just give those a good mix in. That's it. And obviously your batter will start to become a lot looser and more like a liquid texture, but that's okay because we're going to put flour in soon and that will thicken it up. Okay, so that's done for that bit. I'm going to add my other eggs now, mix those in, and we can move on to the next part. Okay, so my eggs are in here. So now I'm going to add my flour and my rising agent. So for this, again, I'm using just plain white flour. If you happen to only have self-raising, that's totally fine. Just means that you don't need to put baking soda or any raising agents in your cake because the self-raising flour already has it built in. But I'm going to use plain flour and just add some rising agent to mine. Okay. So I'm looking at about 1.5 cups for this. I'm just making sure I can fit that little bit in before I open the next bag. I'm so messy, look at me making a mess. Let's just get rid of that. There we go. And just dollop it in like that. Again, a little bit at a time. Mix that in. Okay. And you'll notice as you start to add more and more of your flour, obviously the mixture will thicken up and it will be much more like the cake batter consistency. Okay. Okay, add that last bit in there, and then I will add my other half as well, and then it's almost ready for the oven. I promise you it'll be worth it. Okay. Wonderful, so it's starting to come together. You can see it there. Nice and thick. Okay. So just add the rest of my flour. Okay. Just pop that in there. There we go. Give it a bit of a shake, and in it goes. Okay. It's like watching snowfall. Swirl that in. Okay. So after you've finished incorporating all your flour, if like me you need to pop your baking powder in, you can then do that, and then at that stage you can then add any colourings or any sprinkles or anything you want to put into your mixture. Today I'm just going to keep them nice and simple and plain because we are having a very bright icing colour, so I want to keep them nice and neutral. Okay. So that is looking really good now. So I'm going to now add my baking powder just to make sure that they have a good rise. So this part is super important. If you're mixing in any sort of raising agents, then I would definitely use a electronic mixer, or just make sure that you have really mixed it in well, because if you don't mix your raising agent in properly, you're going to have some bits that are lumpy, some bits that have raised up in the oven and others that haven't, and also if you get a chunk of baking powder in your cupcake, when you bite into it, it is not very tasty. So please make sure you are mixing your baking powders in, because you don't want to taste pure baking powder. It's not very nice, trust me. So I'm looking at half a teaspoon. Shake that in, and then make sure that I give it a very thorough mixing round. Okay. Want to make sure every bit of this batter has some of it in. Okay, and a little does go a long way, so don't be too heavy-handed with it. Okay. And you can see it's looking much more like cake batter. Nice, smooth, creamy looking. So this is perfect for what we want now. Okay. So once you're at this stage and you've got all your colourings and extras in, you're going to want to put them in your cases and get them ready for your oven. So I preheated my oven to 180, and make sure you keep an eye on your cakes because they can go from almost done to overdone. So I would say about sort of 8 to 10 minutes. Now, a little tip here before we pop them in, you'll notice I'm adding some milk. Now again, this gives them extra moistness working alongside the yogurt. Okay. This is also good if you have got a very thick batter. If you happen to accidentally put too much flour in your mixture and you need to loosen it up, putting a little bit of milk in just before you pop them in the oven is also a good idea. But I always like to add a little bit of milk in my recipes just to make it that much more smoother. So there we go. Perfect. So again, make make sure you bake them at around 150 to 180 for about sort of 10 minutes or so. Just make sure you keep an eye on them as they will turn quite quickly. And here you'll notice I haven't filled them up all the way, and that's because I want to leave a gap at the top for my icing, and you'll see why in a moment once we start to ice them. Okay, so here are my little cupcakes. They're nice and springy and they've cooled down enough now that I can put my icing on. Okay, so for my frosting, which is in this bowl here next to me, I've got some fondant side for decorating, and for my frosting I've used icing sugar, a little bit of cream and some butter. Okay, now because my cupcakes are flavoured vanilla, my frosting also has a tiny bit of vanilla in it as well, so we're going for a nice neutral vanilla theme here. So this is my pre-whipped up frosting, and now I'm just going to add my colours before we pipe them on. So today I'm using Colour Splash gel colourings. These are a brand that I've recently discovered and they are super fab. I love them. They come in so many different colours and they're really vivid, and what I love about these is they don't make your bakes taste funny. Sometimes in the past I've used colourings and the more you put in, the funnier it seems to make your cakes taste, so these definitely don't do that, which is really good. Now here I'm trying to go for like a really bright sky blue colour. So I'm using a mixture of their True Blue and their Peacock, which is more on the teal side. So I do want that slight pop of like aqua tealy kind of colour. I want them to really pop. Okay. Just give them a good mix in. So for these cupcakes, obviously I decided to go for my cloud theme because I was trying to think of something that was neutral but fun, because we knew that the lady was going to be having a little girl, but she wasn't really into pink so much, so I thought these little cloud and sky cupcakes were just perfect, nice and neutral and adorable. Okay, so for icing I'm using my star tip here, just pop that in the bag, and as usual I have my handy plastic cup for icing with. So I'm going to just fold my icing bag over and try and squeeze as much icing in as I can to the bottom part. Okay, and I've got a lot here, so I don't think I have to worry about running out. Okay, so it does act like a bit of a vacuum, so you do need to give it a good push down. Make sure you get those air bubbles out. Push in there. Spoon it in. And then once I'm happy that that bit is filled, we can unfold the sides and we could add a little bit more in. Okay, so I'm going to fold up the sides now. This is where it does get a little bit messy. Try and fit in one more spoonful maybe. Oh, let's try and wiggle it in. Come on, in you go. That's it. Brilliant, right. Then we squeeze that off. So I'm just gonna clean up a little bit. Icing can get very, very messy. Let's just get rid of the excess here. And then you're going to want to try and push your icing down in your bag, like so. Make sure you get rid of that air bubble at the end here. I always like to try and squeeze a little bit of icing out to test first. Give it a good twist at the top. And then I'm going to bring one of my cupcakes over. I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can see a little bit better, hopefully. That's it. Okay. And this one I'm just going to go with your typical basic swirl design. So twist at the top. Make sure you apply pressure at the top of the bag. And you want to push down a little bit when you're going around. But look at that. Nice and smooth. Lovely. Okay, just going to push that little top down. And there is one ice cupcake. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple more to show you guys. So again, this is the reason why I left that gap at the top. So you can put lots of nice icing on there. Okay, and again, a little bit at the top. And our third one. Push round and come round into the middle and push up. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to ice the rest of my cakes and then we can move on to our final decorations and little clouds. Okay, so here I have a selection of the ones that I haven't decorated. The rest are in my cupcake carrier. Let's just move these out of the way and I'm going to show you how I make my little clouds. This is just fondant icing. I got mine pre-packaged from the supermarket, but you can make your own if you're feeling adventurous. So just pop some flour on my hands because this icing will get very, very sticky and it's not fun when it sticks to you rather than your cake. So I always like to put a little bit of flour on my hands just so it's easier to work with. It's kind of like Play-Doh at this stage. So we're just going to roll them out into several pretty small little balls shapes. We're just going to plop them on the top in our design. So again, I'll roll out a couple more for you guys to see. Nice and simple and easy. Okay, just pop those two together. And a third one. That's it, just roll it out. Okay. So, another little tip from me. If you're finding that your icing isn't sticking together to each other, I always try to have a little cup of water next to me. I put a little bit on my finger and then pop it on the icing, and then they tend to stick together a bit better that way. So if your icing isn't sticking together as intended, put a tiny bit of water on it and then stick it together. Not a lot though, because icing tends to not react too well to lots of water. So okay, so just roll out some more. And they kind of look like little bubbles on the water, really. I imagine if you had a little yellow fondant rubber ducky, then these could be maybe little bubble bath cupcakes or something. Obviously, if you wanted to stay with the sky theme, you could always add some rainbows or little sunshines, or use some grey icing to make little rain clouds. But today we're making happy little white clouds, just fluffy little clouds. Okay, so let's add a few more to this one. Okay, that's it. Okay, so super cute and very easy to do. So I'm going to carry on decorating the rest of my cakes pretty much the same way. It's very difficult to not go too overboard. It's very therapeutic though, just rolling these out and sticking them on. Get another one. That's it. A little bit fiddly because they are quite small. Okay, just pop one there. Alright. And we're just going to carry on working our way through our cakes. You don't want to make them all the same because each cloud is different. But you'll see here I've done a little mix. Now, most of them have just our simple design with our little balls together, and then a couple of them have these slightly bigger clouds just to break up the design a bit. But I think they are super adorable and I really enjoyed making these, and I got a lot of compliments from people. They said they were super yummy and very cute. So I will definitely be using this recipe again in the future. And these Colour Splash gel colourings, they're so amazingly fab. But I'll have to look into some other sets of colours, I think, for next time. But thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you on my next video. Bye guys.